a minor in a class of her own.
U.S. record, Brian Herron.
Race start, a new U.S. number one.
There you go, can they do it? For national record for Bullis.
This is unbelievable. Transcendent.
It's into the record books, rewritten.
What's up, everybody? We're back for another episode of MileSplit Live. I'm Corey Mall here with Brian Dybel and Travis Miller, and we're going to get in some juicy storylines and races from the weekend, including a national record from one, the only, Katelyn Tuohy, right? Mm-hmm. And you guys have got anything else you're kind of looking forward to today?
No, I think that was what we've been waiting for a long time. You know, when's she going to break her first record of 2019, and finally got it.
Finally got that race. But first, we're going to start with an interview from a stud from Arizona, Morgan Foster of Chandler High School, a senior there and a Stanford University signee. She's currently U.S. number 4 in the 600, U.S. 2 in the 1K, U.S. 3 in the 1500, and U.S. 3 in the mile. All three of those races have produced personal bests for her first indoor season. So Morgan, welcome to MileSplit Live.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Thanks for being with us. So you were in Boston for the New Balance Grand Prix mile race. And you obviously ended up winning that. So can you tell us a little bit about how that invitation came to you? I mean, what was it like maybe deciding upon traveling across the country to race in that mile?
Yeah, well, I was actually invited last year, and I really wanted to go last year, but I kind of had some injuries and things. And so I knew about the race coming into this year, and from the start, I talked to my parents just kind of in preparation for it, because I knew that I really wanted to do it. And so this was kind of the goal, because I figured I would be invited back since I was invited last year. So it was kind of written into the schedule pretty long ago, I guess.
And this was a super talented field. You know, you had athletes like Bryn Sumner, Lily Flynn, Grace Connolly. What was your strategy going into the race?
My strategy going into the race was actually, I was hoping that Kelsey Camille, I was hoping that she would be in the race, because I knew that she was more of like a distance athlete, and I saw that she had taken it out last year. I watched that race, and so I was really hoping that she would be in the race, and so I was hoping to just kind of stick behind her. Unfortunately, she wasn't at the race. I'm not exactly sure why, but that plan kind of switched when I found out that she wasn't there.
So then where did it go from there when you went into the race with Bryn and a lot of these girls who had run very fast miles? Where did it go from there then?
Yeah, I was nervous that nobody would take it, and that's kind of what happened. I still didn't want to lead the first half of the race. I knew that was the one thing that I really didn't want to do, but my coach told me if somebody took it out and the pace was like a slower start, then just to take over around 800 meters. And so that's what I did.
I think, was that your first cross-country trip to race somewhere? I mean, you had raced at Brooks PR before in the outdoor season, and you might have raced at Arcadia before maybe, but that was your first cross-country trip, right?
Yeah, that was the first pretty far race that I've done.
I mean, so like for you, was that special? Like, how was that sort of experience for you?
Yeah, it was so much fun. Just being in like a different environment. The indoor track was new to me. The reason I had to go so far away is because not many West Coast places have indoor tracks. And just the actual event itself, like getting to meet all the pros, like just having casual conversations with like Brenda Martinez and a ton of the other New Balance athletes was just an incredible experience.
Two of your future Stanford teammates too were also in that race, Lily Flynn and Grace Connolly. Did you have any fun conversations with them beforehand? Maybe a little,
after.
Trash talk or anything? Yeah, before or after?
No, actually no trash talking, so that was good. I did meet up with them in the equipment room where we got all of our stuff and had some talks with them for like an hour and a half. It was so cool meeting both of them. And then I actually went to lunch the next day with Grace. Lily, unfortunately, had another race to run, so she couldn't join us, but I went to lunch with Grace, and we just had a really fun time, and I was so excited to meet her.
For your first really substantial indoor season, 3 races, 3 substantial successes, did you expect to see this happen this early, or did you know, based on where your fitness level was right now, that you were going to come in really strong in 2019?
My workouts have been the best ever. I think I'm in the best fitness shape that I've been in my entire life. So I kind of saw this coming, I guess. Cross-country season was really good in the beginning, too. I had one little touchy race, but I had a pretty good success in cross-country as well. So I kind of saw this coming. It was a little bit of a surprise how fast I got back to this point after taking the break after cross-country, but I kind of knew just based on how practice was going.
What's your plan for the rest of the indoor season? That was a big moment for you to travel to Boston, but do you have any other races in store before you start outdoors?
No, actually, I think I'm going to tap out for indoor just because all the races are so far away. I would have loved to do the Millrose Games, but it's in New York, and that's really far away, and just a bunch of traveling and everything just might not be the best as far as getting ready for outdoor season goes. So I think I'm going to relax on indoor season, maybe try to do another race in UW, but as of now, looking like my indoor season is done.
And looking back at last year, you got a state title in the 800. You ran really well at Brooks PR, but all of that kind of pales into comparison what happened with January and the car accident. Can you explain what happened and how you recovered and what that road back was like?
Yeah, so January 1st, I got in a bad car accident. I flipped 3 times because my tire blew out. And so I broke my arm, and I have this hefty scar on my right arm. But so the recovery took longest for the concussion. The concussion had really lasting effects. So I couldn't run. That would jostle like my head and everything. So I think it was just under 2 months or something to really get back into where I was as far as school goes, and then a little bit longer to get back into running. And I'd also faced an injury during cross-country season earlier, so that year I took a total of like 4.5 months off. And so it was not only coming back from the car accident, it was also coming back from that hip injury as well. So it took a while to get back into shape, and I still think that if I had even a month longer of training, that I could have really dropped my time and even PR'd last year. Things don't always go as you plan, and that kind of demonstrated that perfectly. But I was really happy with how that season turned out, considering everything that happened and the kind of slow and grueling process of getting back in, and those horrible workouts where I can go so much faster, but I wasn't because I'd taken so much time off. It was really a test of like mental and physical strength.
Morgan, that was a life-altering moment. Off the track, what did you learn about yourself, moving forward from that incident? Because, any other person that would change person dramatically. So how did it change you, I guess, moving forward from that accident?
It definitely showed me a lot, that I had a lot of strength that I didn't even know that I had. Just kind of the resilience aspect of it. I never wanted to look at it as, oh my gosh, poor me, like I got in this horrible car accident and I'm so far behind. I wanted to look at it more of like I made it past it. I'm working on improving myself every single day. I can get better if I keep on trying, and nothing's really going to stop me from getting to where I want to be.
I'll ask this question because I'm a big movie guy myself. I know Chandler is a well-known high school in Arizona. Over 3,000 people are enrolled there. But it's been known to host some TV shows and commercials. It's been like sort of a destination for some of these fun things, including the 1989 TV series Teen Angel, starring Jason Priestley. So what's your favorite part about campus, and have you ever taken part as an extra at the show that's been at Chandler High School?
I have not taken part as an extra, although I'd love to. So, Mr. Rother, if you're watching this, put me in. But my favorite part is probably the CCA, and it's the Chandler Center for the Arts. It's like a giant, like, auditorium kind of. There's like 3 3 giant auditoriums, and like the seats actually spin, so you can like add seats to every auditorium too. And so it's really cool. I've had like a dance, like beginning dance class in there. And you just kind of roam around, and there's like underground tunnels and like everything. It's really kind of random.
Wow. And different regions of the country are known for different things, different specialties. Philly, you have cheesesteaks. New York, you have delis. Texas and California have breakfast tacos. What is the Phoenix area known for?
Cacti. Cactus.
Cactus?
But
Cactus isn't a food, though. Do you eat cactus?
You can eat cactus, yeah.
Can you?
Prickly pear. Yes, there's like prickly pear. I've gotten lip balm, prickly pear chocolate. I don't know what type of food we have. I guess tacos. I mean, we have Mexican food, I guess. But
Do you guys have any like chilies? Like I know like New Mexico has like certain chilies and not chilies, peppers and spices that they have like that they're very particular to. I think it's a green chili pepper.
Yeah, green
pepper
and red
that
chili.
Yeah.
yeah. Well, we have In-N-Out Burger, but I'm pretty sure California does too.
Yeah.
So.
Not special to Phoenix. What about any special talents outside of running? You know, what is your hobby or your special talent?
Well, right now with my Assassins game, my hobby is tracking down my teammates and shooting them with a water gun.
Future in law enforcement, maybe? I don't know. Future there? All right, let's end with what are your big goals for 2019 as you look ahead to outdoor track and field now?
Definitely running in more national level meets, getting a lot of wins. I really want that golden shoe from Brooks, and also some state records. Definitely trying to take down the mile and 800.
Awesome. Well, Morgan, thank you so much for being on our show. I'm sure you'll have plenty of success moving forward, okay? Take care.
Thank you so much.
All right, see ya. So Morgan Foster already has 3 state titles in Arizona, 450 mile right now indoors, and she's capable of possibly, winning maybe a title at Brooks PR, like she mentioned, 3rd last year in the 800. So Morgan Foster moving ahead as a senior, one of the top talents.
Yeah, I think for her to run 450, I mean, she said she's been hitting those kind of workouts, but she's going up against athletes who've been racing through substantial indoor seasons and are in really great form. And to go in without a ton of racing, that kind of caliber competition, was really impressive to see her actually win that race.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's incredible to see her season and her progress in her senior year to really kind of come to fruition, everything that she's put in, all this work. And she said she had a long road to recovery, not just from the car accident, but also injuries. We know they can be really detrimental. So to see her come through and have some fast times, it's going to be exciting to see her move now into outdoor, as I'm sure Arizona gets rolling here in just probably a couple of weeks.
Yeah, and next fall, part of a great Stanford recruiting class with Grace Connolly and Lily Flynn. They're going to be a team to watch in the next couple of years with her on board. But we're going to move on to our Big 5 storylines. All right, first up, Mondo Elite High School Invitational happened out in North Carolina this weekend, and we saw some very good races from a variety of athletes. So, guys, what was the best performance from the JDL this weekend?
I think Randolph Ross has to be at the top of that list, coming off of what he did at the Virginia Showcase, because he wasn't even in the quote-unquote fast section at the VA Showcase and ran the overall fast time of 300. So for him to back that up again, I think was really important to show that he can continue that. Wasn't popping off one fast time, but this is a guy who's continued to build on that.
Yeah, he definitely is a guy I have to shout out here. His coach kind of got on me a little bit about not having him in the MileSplit 50 rankings. That was my mistake there. But yeah, he's definitely a legit athlete after running that time at the VA Showcase and then coming back with a 47.87 in the 400. US number 3 currently, NC number 4 all time. So huge mark from him. And he also high jumps. I think you want to say he has a PR of 6.8 so far this season. So yeah, big shout out to him.
I think one thing I learned at the VA Showcase from North Carolina editor Jason Creasy was that Randolph hasn't put a lot of training under his legs yet, so he's doing a lot of that just on base alone. So it could be kind of scary good to see him when he does start to get sort of those track legs under him over the outdoor season to see what he's capable of doing. But moving on from Randolph too, we had Southeast Raleigh in the 4x2 running really well back-to-back weeks, and Caleb McRae too, who lost to Ross in the 400 but came back, I believe, in the 500 and won that. So what do you guys think of those teams and that individual as well?
McRae is kind of that guy now with him and Ross. It's great that you have that dynamic because I think they didn't have that for a long time and maybe now we're seeing that Kayla Davis might not have that on the girls' side, but to have that guy you can go toe-to-toe with in these races and push each other to fast times, start building that rivalry, I think is really important for these athletes, so it's not just one-off times. Because when you do that, there is a little bit of question marks, in terms of how you're going to perform against tougher competition, or is this kind of one-off thing? So for him and Caleb now to go toe-to-toe more frequently, I think is going to be important for both of their development through indoor and into outdoor too.
I think the Southeast Raleigh boys there in the 4x2, showing a steady improvement, and maybe it's just getting the handoffs, getting some work. But even from the weekend prior at the VA Showcase, they ran 128.73 this weekend. They're in 128.81 last weekend. I know it's not a huge improvement, but every little bit counts, moving up those rankings. So pretty impressive there to just see, be able to drop, especially when you're already, that fast in that.
And to drop on a flat track too.
And flat
4x2 is impressive.
So
Kayla Davis, as we saw at the VA, ran extremely well, but she comes back here on the track she knows very well and puts down her first sub 53 and 52.96 freshman national class record. Does Kayla get better from here, and what is she capable of? We've talked about it before, but what do you think she's really capable of as she moves forward?
Well, now that you can really officially put her on the record books, now she's got that freshman class record. Now there's an all-time great feeling to what she's doing this season. We know she's fast, but it's not surprising or shocking to see an underclassman on the female side come up in high school and run fast times. But once you kind of get into that territory where you're running all-time great marks, you're breaking class records, this is a point where this is like a legitimate athlete that everyone needs to take notice of.
For sure.
Yeah, couldn't have said it better.
And one last thing, let's mention the budding rivalry between Jenna Hutchins and Sasha Neglia. Just this past on Monday, actually, Gatorade Athlete of the Year came out, and Sasha Neglia won that for cross country. Even though Jenna won the state title in Tennessee, finished, I believe, 9th at Foot Locker Nationals. Sasha was 16th at NXN. These girls, they're back and forth, and Jenna Hutchins beats Sasha at the line here in the mile for the girls, 457.32. So is this the kind of rivalry that we're going to come to see out of Tennessee in the future?
This is great, at least for the rest of this year and into next year. Obviously, Sasha will be a senior next year. We'll have it at least for another year and a half or so. And the thing is, when you have that much talent and you're constantly pushing each other back and forth, you can only get better. And talent builds talent. I mean, it should be really interesting and fun to watch.
Tennessee, not historically known as the
that's a big
hotbed
thing,
for
these two
elite
runners.
distance runners, so you love to see it.
It's perfect, too, because they're in the same classification. They'll race each other in different events, not just the mile, but possibly in the 2 mile, too. They run, similarly, and I think it'll bring the best out of these girls. So it's fun to see right now, and it's going to continue out through the outdoor season. Let's move on to number 4. New Yorkers and field events this weekend was a big theme. Alyssa Braxton set the New York State indoor record in the triple jump, 41.9.75, and in the weight throw, Monique Hardy went over 60 foot, the first girl to do that this season nationally, 62.9.5 at the Trent Jackson Cedric Walker invite. So these two girls really doing wonderful things this weekend.
And Braxton's progression this season has been phenomenal. To see her has been kind of a little bit up and down. The long jump hasn't been as strong, still hasn't quite hit that 18-foot mark, but to go close to 42 feet really in the triple jump, and we still have a couple months left in the indoor season, was super impressive out of her, and to see the kind of progression and where she's going now.
You often see, too, when athletes feel it, they tend to kind of jump in rhythm. And she hit a 41.2 in the same series before she hit the 41.9. And that was when everybody got behind her at Ocean Breeze. Yeah. So, once she got a little of that adrenaline, that hush from the crowd, she really came to play. But I think it's good to see because that series reflected how she had been performing during that outing. And Hardy, too, some of the throwers in the country don't get as much respect sometimes when we talk about track and field, but this is a sport that really is defined by what field athletes do too. So I think going over 60 feet, being the first girl to do that is great to see out of her.
And because the weight throw is sort of a quote-unquote off event indoors, the high school, they all move to discus outdoor, so it's something that's not as easy to follow that transition between indoor and outdoor for people who aren't diehard throw fans to be able to correlate what all those distances mean once you make that switch. But you're right, and New York is a big weight throw state, so sometimes this isn't some random state where it's not competing very often. That's a really strong event, and so for her to do that is really shows a lot about what she's capable of.
Number 3, the New Balance Grand Prix, and we're going to focus on the mile here. Boys mile and girls mile both threw down some very impressive outings. On the boys' side, Matthew Payamps came to play, 4:12.39, out kicking Sean Dolan to win. Junior girls mile, as we talked about, Morgan Foster won, 4:50.13, out kicking Bryn Foster, Lily Flynn, and Grace Connolly. So this big meet, and Boston produced some of the best mile efforts. Anything of these outings that really stood out to you?
Well, Payamps just lost his U.S. #1 in the 1K that he had for less than a week.
To Luis Peralta.
Yeah, so he had that loss, and to come back, now I think we're starting to see out of him that he's a competitor. That he can obviously run fast when there's less competition, but he's winning these races now, and which in the long term is more important than running a fast time and getting U.S. #1 for a week or two. To be able to go to VA Showcase against Theo Woods, and he's constantly be traveling around and beating the best athletes in the country is a really great sign for this guy moving forward, and that he's a very legitimate contender, if not developing into the top contender for now a mile championship.
I don't know how long he had that mile #1 too, because Dan Mayton ran a 4:09. But what were you going to say?
Well, and you look at Matthew Payamps. I think a couple weeks ago on the show, you said he's a guy definitely to watch out and continue to progress and get better. And that's really what's happened. It's going to be interesting now to see how other guys around him kind of respond to that mark and what he's able to do. Especially guys in the state like Shea Wabacher and. Who else am I forgetting? I know there's another name that came to mind. But just guys that have been around him right now.
Maybe.
Tyler Berg. Guys in the MileSplit 50 that have been right around him. Rizzo was another one. Matthew Rizzo, who was up pretty high early on, to see if they can start to pop off some big marks, just like Matthew Payamps. And, again, competition, pushing forward that competition to get better times.
I don't know if he'll do
faster.
it, but I do think he's going to be one of the best milers this year. And I'm talking about maybe going for a 4-minute mile. I don't know if he's around it region, but he's going to be very, very, very fast. And at VA, I did talk to his coach at the showcase, and he said that St. Anthony's is going to go for a DMR title at New Balance Nationals Indoor with Payamps as the anchor. So that's one thing to look forward to.
They almost had it last year. That was
Brentwood, a fantastic run there. But my question with Payamps is, what's his best event? Because he's very good in a lot of different things. Obviously, showing versatility in the mile, 1K, 3K. He can run up, he can run down. Where do you guys see him maybe excelling the most at a distance this year?
I like what I've seen with him, and if you want to call the mile kind of a mid-distance event relative to 3K, 2 mile, we've seen what he can do in the 1K and the mile. He's shown that he can be a tactical. He can run fast. He can run tactically. He can win these tight races. I think that mile is kind of shaping up to be that, especially as this year, so far, it doesn't look like an indoor championship mile is going to be at 4:04 pace or 4:05 pace.
Right.
When you're looking at a group of guys running 4:10, maybe just under that, he seems like he's got that foot speed to go down a little bit. He's got that closing ability, that this mile is a really great distance for him as he looks at where he's going to race once, because he's not going to race 3 or 4 events if they're also looking at the DMR. It's probably DMR and maybe one individual race. I really like him going to the mile, especially because this year there's not maybe a gap like we've seen with Brody and everybody else past. Like, there's going to be a really just tight group of maybe, who knows, 10 guys running around 4:10. And so for him, that's a great opportunity.
I called him a hunter because he likes to run off the shoulder of people at the events that I've seen already at Yale and now at the VA, and I'm sure here he picked off Dolan too, but he likes to be the hunted or hunting others in races. We're gonna add anything else?
No, I was just saying, like, if you look at some of the times he ran over the cross country season, some of the distance events, he has strong potential in distance, but definitely he is a mid distancer kind of guy through and through. And right now, again, as we mentioned, 154.73 in the 800. That's US #5. So potential even to drop down a little into that 8 and see where he can really go.
We probably give Dolan some credit too. Maybe a guy who's considered more of an 8 1K runner to run up against some of the best more milers in the country for him to finish second that race. Arguably maybe a little more impressive than Payamps actually winning with just what Dolan is theoretically good at, but for him to finish just behind him there was kind of one of the shockers, and you look at him beating Oosting and these other elite caliber guys who are running a little stronger in the mile.
In the girls' race, I thought that was Foster's best win of her, obviously indoor. This is the first time she's running, but best win of her indoor career. But also Bryn as well, out of Georgia. Bryn Sumner running 4:51. I think she improved dramatically too in the mile, and she's one to really look out for in the outdoor season. She's a Villanova recruit, and she's got a ton of talent at that distance. Going on to number 2, the Dr. Sander Columbia Challenge featured some very, very good races. We'll get on to maybe our number 1 pick after this. But
maybe.
2 high schoolers that had very, very good showings was Luis Peralta in the 1K and Athing Mu in the 1K. Both set U.S. number 1 marks. Not really surprising. Peralta, what was most impressive, though? That's the question here, because Peralta chased down Alfred Shawanza to win. Athing kind of led and finished off very well. So of those two, what was more impressive, or what would you like to talk about?
Athing Mu defies logic. She doesn't make sense. I mean, she put it best herself when she tweeted out, distance runner by day, sprinter by night.
That was a great tweet.
It just doesn't, her range just doesn't make you shouldn't be able to do what she can do. Running up to the mile, running down to the 200.
Yeah.
You know what I got a comparison to the other day? I was talking to St. Benedict Prep's coach, and he talked about seeing Ches. He was at another school before he went to St. Benedict's, and he remembers seeing Ches, and he said, Athing is just like Ches. She can really run anything from the 200 up into possibly the 3K, which she hasn't done. She can literally throw down in every single event.
Interesting perspective. How would she do in a 3K, you think?
I mean, don't bet against her.
At this point, anything, no, I would never bet against her. But
every single race that she's in, she's showing something different. And that's what's most impressive
even up against
about her.
Competition, like last week and this week, she shows and shines above. So.
And the competitor of her, I think, is what's most impressive from her, because very rarely has she run against people of her caliber, and when she does get that competition,
she lives up to
another level out of her.
She's like the high school mid-distance version of Grant Holloway, basically. She can be number 1 at any time in 5 events and win and just crush everyone just whenever she feels like it. She's just at another level.
This weekend, running an 800 at the JDL in a pro field, so watch out for that. But let's not forget about Luis Peralta, 119 and. Wow, that's not 119. He ran the 1K this weekend, and he won in a U.S. 1 time. But Luis Peralta is a fantastic talent too, and he said after this meet that he's going to stick with his club coach for the remainder of the indoor season. Going to run club, and then he potentially could run at the USA Indoor Championships if he gets maybe an entry. I don't know. He already ran for Dominican.
I think it's 224 low,
224.53.
Yeah, I mean the U.S. Indoor Championships this year are going to be a joke. It's an off year. From the vast majority of pros have already said after this weekend, a few are going to go Milrose and call it for their season. So depending on what the qualifying's like, it's not out of the realm of possibility that
he's already run for another country though. So the question is whether he'll get an entry there for the USA Champs. But I mean, Oregon commit though. What has she shown that's been very special this indoor season so far?
I mean, solo performances for sure. We haven't seen him get into, and this weekend we saw it there, but I'd really like to see him get into more elite fields, because he's been running this kind of 224, I think a couple of times already this season. He's been going super fast, and now I'd like to see him race people and really see what kind of times he can go after here, because seeing how consistently he's been running, you got to feel like there's a next level here. He's not unleashing. This isn't his ceiling. And so I really want to see what is next. Is it more of this kind of 220 mid, leading the country in the 1K, or is it starting to crawl up the all-time list and really dropping some serious times, and which is difficult to do solo. So I really like to see him get into some more fields. He races a lot at the Armory, so it's hard to maybe get into an unseeded professional race or something. But if he gets into one of those lower seeded races, you never know. And
the amount of races could catch up eventually too in the indoor season. So you have to kind of weigh that between what he's doing and what he could do too. Let's go to number 1. Katelyn Tuohy this weekend against a professional field. Her first race against professionals set a national record in the 3K, 9:01.81. Wasn't very surprising because we all knew she was going for it. But the way in which she ran it, the way in which she achieved it, she finished 3rd in the race, was very special. So
I think one of my my favorite moments, and I didn't watch the full interview, but I think I did catch a clip of it, and she was like, yeah, I just wasn't that happy. I wanted to go under 9, and it was just like classic Katelyn Tuohy, like never happy, never satisfied, always wants better. And that's, I think, just what defines her as an athlete, is always searching to do better and go faster and run harder and just be obviously the best ever. Like,
well, perfection is the aim.
Yeah.
Running perfect race is always the aim for a girl like Katelyn, who practices, is regimented to a degree. And then when you go out there and when you finally start to feel human in some of those laps after 1,600 meters, then it's when things start to get real. But she did close in consecutive 35 laps, even after she faded a little bit toward the end. And that's what is special about her. Even when she hurts, she goes back to that level that she's capable of, and she finishes things off.
Yeah. Sub 9 was clearly the goal. I mean, she came in with a 9:05 already, so no one running 9:01. No one was shocked. I mean, it's a national record, but no one was shocked that she did it. To me, it was seeing her up towards the front with those athletes. You know, going into your first professional environment, she could have very easily just sat at the back of the pack, let them carry her. But she was straight up there the entire way, and I think that was the most telling thing about her. And then, especially as we look at what's potentially next for her down the line, she's not someone who's going to shy away from these kind of opportunities.
Well, the thing that we're going to look out for in the next couple of weeks is whether she's going to run the Millrose Mile, which she did not win last year. That's kind of on her resume now, and you wonder whether she's going to go to it. She said she's been 50-50 on the Millrose Mile looking forward, because she doesn't want to race too soon after a big effort. So that's what we're going to be watching for Katelyn Tuohy moving forward. Millrose, will she run? Will she not? We'll get it detailed on MileSplit.com. But those were our big 5 storylines. We're going to move forward to a new segment on collegiate athletes that are doing well right after high school. And we got to go to our man, Mondo Duplantis, who wore the LSU kit for the first time in January at the National Pole Vault Summit in Nevada. And then he set a school record in Arkansas recently, 5.83 meters, 19:1.5. And on Friday, he's got his home debut in Baton Rouge. So, Mondo Duplantis, you know, how long are we going to see him in an LSU kit? Will this be the only year? But how much do we have to kind of just take this all in and just love it for what it is?
This is what we needed. Was what we saw at the Razorback invite. Going 18-1 at the Pole Vault Summit. Everyone's like,
yeah.
Like nothing. It's like, all right, like great. He's in. He's back in 2019. But this is the Mondo we've been ready to see on the NCAA level, and a guy who's about to probably break every conceivable record there is here. But going 19-1.5 in his first true NCAA competition was pretty cool.
Yeah. What do you think at LSU, home debut on Friday, with friends and family and everybody kind of watching him on? Do you think he's going to probably go for something special because, you know, this is the moment maybe where he's going to get in front of everybody, and maybe this is one of the meets before, you know, he moves forward with his season. Do you think he'll go for something big here?
Yeah, I mean, LSU is not going to host a ton of, major meets throughout the season. He's not going to go all out that many more times before, NCAA. So home meet, that's a good place to do it.
Yeah, and I want to say, wasn't it, in his senior year, at the end of the year, it was states or one of the state or regional meets that he ended up bettering his
19.5
Yeah, I mean,
outdoors, yeah.
So it's just like that home crowd and hometown energy. Just people I'm sure are going to come and watch him and support him. So it'll be really interesting to see how he does, and he'll probably have the whole place behind him if I had to guess.
One of the big reasons for competing at LSU was because his brother Antoine was still there in his senior season at LSU. Big baseball prospect. So, this is the year where they'll all kind of come together and see what he can do. Moving forward, Sydney McLaughlin of New Balance ran her first professional race in the 500 at the New Balance Grand Prix. Won in 109.46. No one else was close. So Sydney in her first race had a huge crowd, had a lot of selfies afterwards. It was a good outing out of her, and it's obviously something that she's going to kind of buoy as she goes forward in her career.
Yeah, this is exactly what this meet's for with New Balance.
Right.
Yeah. Put Sydney McLaughlin out there for his pro race, set her up in a race that she was designed for her to win very comfortably. I mean, 109 is good, but it's seconds off of even the American record indoors. Right. So it's not like it was an impressive performance. I think it was great just to see her. She's healthy. She's running, because she's going to immediately shut it down and look ahead towards October at this point. But you would love to have seen her in that 3. put her in with Kendall Ellis, put her in with Gabby Thomas, get him in that 300. And you would like to hope, who cares who wins that race? With those three athletes, all New Balance athletes, their first time like that, who knows what they could have run if the three of them really went out there. So that was maybe the only little disappointing thing. I think I would like to have seen her in a really competitive race, especially with the other athletes they had, instead of putting her in a super soft field in that 500 just to kind of let her do her thing. But I mean, it's cool seeing the whole new color scheme too with New Balance. Pretty sweet.
I was gonna ask, what do you guys think of those jerseys?
It's good. I think they haven't changed them out for a couple of years now, so it's good to see.
What about the ones that the high
fresh.
Schoolers wore for the mile?
Kind of looked like a Pop-Tart.
I thought it looked like somebody just like
It
splattered
looked like
paint.
a Pop-Tart, to be honest.
Hey, don't be
They're kind of interesting. They're interesting. I think they're different.
I think for first race, you're shaking it out. She had to be a little nervous, right? There's like, not only is she a track athlete, but she's like fast becoming an icon for young girls. New Balance, I'm assuming there's going to be some kind of fashion trends that are going to start coming by virtue of her and her name in the next couple of years from New Balance. So, I mean, this is her first race for New Balance. It's like an image thing. So, yeah, you put her in a race that you have to win, but maybe this is just the race that she shakes it off. She gets, she's over it. She's a pro now. She can move forward and race well. All right. We also had Devin Dixon of Texas A&M race to an American record for the 800 meters indoors at altitude. He went 1:45.27 at Texas Tech this weekend. Broke the U.S. Collegiate record and Texas A&M school record in the process. And his is a guy from Georgia just 3 years ago, graduated high school. So this is what kind of patience looks like when you get a good race and you're throwing it down.
It really took him until last outdoor season to get his break, if you want to call it that. His first couple years, he'd been running, 146, 147, nothing crazy in the 400. And last year, he finally got down the 145s. He was running 45 in the 400. He was consistently splitting 45s, I think 44 high in the 4x4s. So last year, outdoor, he finally kind of took that next step into being a guy who's viewed as, a contender in that event. But still, to come out, Lubbock's been a great atmosphere for fast times, but it was really largely a solo effort. There was a pacer through the first half of that race, but he basically had to take on that second portion all by himself, which is no easy task when you're running a time like that in January for these athletes. So for him, and he's just, I think, less than a quarter of a second off of the overall NCAA record. So this is a guy he's there. He's the next guy up now at this point, now that a lot of those guys have gone professional at this point. So for him, he's kind of heir to the throne.
One good note about Devin Dixon is that he didn't run indoor track in high school for Eagles Landing in Georgia, right? His first indoor season came at Texas A&M when he was a freshman. Indoor, 147 his first year. Next year, sophomore, 145.62, and again, as a junior, 145 low. So steady progress at Texas A&M, which has been known to really develop these half-milers.
Powerhouse. Yeah, you got Pat Henry there, and recently, obviously, Donovan Brazier. I think back to him, and it seems like they continuously churn out those 800 guys.
Yeah, and at Lubbock as well, freshman Eric Allen ran an NCAA top 5 in the 200. He went 20.63. So for him, that's first indoor meet with USC now. Brendan Stewart went 6.63, which is close to the top 10 in the 60. Made it to the final in what was the world's fastest 60 so far this year before Grant Holloway decided he was going to run it. But Eric Allen, that was 20.6. His first indoor meet is pretty solid for him too.
Yeah. Coming up on MileSplit this weekend, definitely stay tuned. We have the Alabama High School Indoor State Championships live on Alabama. MileSplit and MileSplit.com. Athletes such as Amaris Tynesma, Presley Miles, Will Stone, Hoover High School, blue chip high school that really is wonderfully talented. Trey Allen, the U.S. #1 high jumper. If healthy, a Charles Lewis possibly running in the state championships in Alabama. So Alabama coming up on MileSplit this weekend. We also have the Air Force
Colorado
Open.
Air Force Open High School. Ariana Miner's run there in the past. There's been some big name talents from Colorado, and some guys come up from Texas every now and then, in New Mexico. Maybe Sean Harrison could come up and could run at altitude. Right. Yeah, because it kind of pulls from that West Texas region area. So we'll see. Should be a great meet. Always has some fast performances there. Zion Gordon from FK Elite, he should run. He's got some top times. In Colorado, and like I guess I had mentioned him last weekend, a guy who could potentially get back on the MileSplit 50 or move up with some big races.
So stay tuned on MileSplit.com for all that coverage and all those live events. Let's go to Instagram Throwdown. That says pizza rolls, but we're going to go to Instagram Throwdown.
We have a guy who's becoming pretty consistent here. This one's from Theo Woods himself. He's following up a question he had with MileSplit 50 last week, but he wants to know 1K matchup. Who are you guys taking, Luis Peralta or Sean Dolan?
Man, he likes these matchup questions,
Yeah.
doesn't he? He
wants
really
to know.
He's like
enjoys
writing
these.
notes. He's
Yeah.
like, okay,
He's trying to figure out who he needs to watch for.
Oh, dang.
I'm going to say Luis Peralta because he's proven already that he's capable of winning races and running very fast. It's just running fast, but winning races, 600, 1K. And we're going to see him in the 800 at some point run a really, really fast one. So I'm going to go with Luis.
Dang. I think right now, I think I'm going to take Louis too. I'm looking at him and what he ran last year during outdoor and 800, and this what he's already run this year. Yeah, I got Luis.
All right, the correct answer was Sean Dolan. And then Luis Peralta also sent in a question himself.
Oh, hey.
He
okay.
wants to know, how does MileSplit work?
How does
How does MileSplit work? Well, what's he looking for there?
Well, it's a website. We write news based on things that happen.
We take some videos sometimes, film some workouts.
How do we go to the places that we go to? Maybe, right? How do you pick a workout Wednesday? Where are you going to go?
Yeah, I mean,
Wednesday?
so
How about that?
we look at a region of the country. It's obviously indoor is big in the Northeast, so you look at a big hotbed for places to go. Virginia comes to mind. I was in Boston recently. We have one coming out with Grace Conley tomorrow, workout, and then hopefully next week or the week after that, Ryan Oosting, we have a workout with him coming out. So you kind of just look for where there's a lot of talent and we can get the most athletes on Workout Wednesdays or for Workout Wednesdays. So we go to those regions and try to film as many as I can.
This next one's a question we actually got from Joe Lee when we were at the VA Showcase, but Chloe Bowes wants to know, what's your favorite race to watch?
I thought it was going to be what's in Corey's backpack.
I mean, I would go with outdoor it's 4x1. Indoor, I would say I like the 800 because it's just enough laps to really make it a race if you have a really good 800. And you can see a lot of moves being made at the front. So I like the tactical nature of the 800 when it does become a really good race.
I think for me, I enjoy watching the 4x4. Outdoors, I think the 4x4, just because like a lot of times at the race, the meat comes down to that race, point wise. And thinking of when I was at Dartmouth, it was crazy watching the 4x8 because that was the last race. I want to say it was the 4x8 was the last race, and it was crazy watching Bishop Hendricken and LaSalle battle it out. So whatever race puts the team title, the stakes on the line, that's kind of the race to go to. So normally it's the 4x4, so I'm gonna kind of stick with that.
What's your favorite race?
I don't like track. Next question. Sam wants to know, French toast or pancakes?
Not
Hard
pancakes.
French toast. It's
Not
French toast.
pancakes.
French toast all the way, 100%. I
not
love
pancakes.
French toast. I make a mean French toast. I had to make some time
All right,
for you
I'm
guys.
gonna. That was Sam.
Stacks
That
for
was Sam.
days. Come
So I'm gonna
on.
say, Sam, watch this YouTube clip of the show review on pancakes, and then tell me whether you like pancakes anymore.
Okay.
It's all about
Watch
the
it.
pancakes.
Not pancakes.
All right,
Not gonna be
finally,
pancakes.
this one's a thinker from Bailey Deaver. Who do you think could run all of the events the best from the 400 to the 5K?
Just one person.
Yeah,
I was
which
gonna say
single
Athing
athlete?
Mu, but I don't know what best guy to put against her and everything, but
Yeah.
5K might be a little tough for her. I don't know what her range is in the 5K.
best.
I mean, so if we were to like line up the events and tick off, okay, this person's gonna win this, this, and this.
It's a thing on the girls' side.
It's
for
a
sure.
thing on the girl side.
Yeah.
I'd have to almost go with that. If you said from the 400 to the
400 to
5K.
the 5K.
I'm gonna go Easton Allred on the guy side.
Interesting.
Easton Allred.
Interesting.
Yeah. The first name that came to mind when this question came through was not a current high schooler, recent graduate.
Oh, okay.
Was Brandon McGordy, because he was a guy who made famous by his 148 800, but he ran down. He went 48 in the 400. He ran 15 minutes for the 5K and cross. So that's a guy who has, and he
got good
mainly ran
range.
down around the 8 and the 4, but he ran cross country. He ran a 15-minute 5K. Like, that's a guy who can
Yeah.
hang up at that kind of distance.
I think
Yeah.
Easton's legit too. So
Yeah.
Allred.
Yeah.
Make
Easton's
sure
good.
next week send in your Instagram questions, and we'll pick our best 5 as always to get featured on the show.
Up next, Pizza Rolls winner of the week. And our most recent winner was Ashton Allen of Bullis High School. So we got pizza coming to Ashton this weekend.
44% of the vote.
Yeah, look at that.
On Twitter.
44%. Bullis
good.
has a strong voting pool, I think,
I'm sure
on
their
Twitter.
Twitter's very
Yeah.
active.
That was like
whoever
worst
runs
case
that.
scenario because you're gonna have to get
very
that
good.
team a lot of pizza.
Yeah.
Hey, we only have so much budget for pizza, and this is questionable, but we do have a budget for pizza. So, congrats to you, Ashton. We'll get that pizza to you soon enough. Guys, anything else?
Oh, good.
That's it.
That was good.
It's been another great show of MileSplit Live. We will be back next Tuesday for all the coverage you need from MileSplit. So, thanks for watching. We'll see you later.